she said. "You're being paranoid. I don't owe you constant updates just because I'm out with my ex." "No," I said. "You don't owe me anything anymore." She realized what I meant when she came home and her key no longer fit. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I used to think love was mostly about trust. You meet someone, you give them the benefit of the doubt, and you try not to keep score. For a while, that actually worked. When I met Rachel, she felt like the calm in my life. I was working long hours in IT, coming home to an empty apartment every night, eating takeout over my laptop. She came along like a breath of air, spontaneous, loud in the best way, always dragging me to new places. I liked how she filled the quiet. We dated for almost 3 years. At first, everything felt balanced. I handled the practical things, bills, errands, scheduling, and she handled the life part. She'd surprise me with weekend plans, leave little notes, send texts during the day just to say she missed me. Back then, she made me feel like I mattered. But it's strange how things shift without you noticing. It started with small things. She'd cancel plans last minute, stop answering texts when she went out with her friends. Nothing dramatic, just little inconsistencies. I'd ask if everything was okay, and she'd say, "You're overthinking again." I wanted to believe her. I really did. By the end of the second year, I started hearing more about her, catching up with people from the past. Mostly coworkers or old classmates. But one name kept showing up: Evan, her ex from before we met. She always brought him up casually, like it was no big deal. "Evan said this funny thing," or "Evan's going to that same concert next weekend." At first, I brushed it off. Everyone has an ex. It didn't mean anything, but the tone changed over time. She started defending him before I even said a word. One night, we were sitting on the couch, half watching a movie, when her phone lit up with his name. She glanced at it, then flipped the screen down. I didn't say anything immediately. I waited until later. "Do you still talk to Evan?" I asked. She gave a quick laugh, not even looking up from her phone. "Wow, straight to the jealousy angle, huh?" "That's not what I said." She sighed, dramatically, like she was exhausted by me. "He texted me about a song we both like." "It's not some secret affair, Alex. You need to relax." I nodded, even though something twisted in my stomach. "I'm not trying to accuse you. It just feels like there's stuff I don't know lately." She turned to me then, eyes sharp. "You know what your problem is? You need constant reassurance. I can't be glued to my phone every time you get insecure." It wasn't yelling. It wasn't even cruel on the surface. But it was dismissive, and somehow that hurt more. Like she'd rewritten the story so she was the victim, and I was the overreacting boyfriend. From then on, everything became a minefield. If I asked where she was going, I was checking up. If I didn't ask, I was acting cold. There was no right answer. A few weeks later, she told me she was going out with some coworkers after work. Around midnight, I texted to ask if she was heading home soon. No reply. I called once. It went to voicemail. She came home at 2 a.m., smelling like a bar and irritation. "You didn't have to wait up," she said, dropping her purse. "I wasn't waiting," I replied. "Just wanted to make sure you got home safe." She gave me that tired smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "You really have to stop worrying about me every second. It's not healthy." She kissed my cheek, went straight to the shower, and that was it. No apology. No explanation. The next morning, I tried again, not to fight, but to understand. "You said you were going out with coworkers, right? Was Evan there?" She froze for half a second, just long enough to answer my question. Then she laughed it off. "Seriously, Alex? You're still on that? He was there, yeah? So were 10 other people. You make it sound like I'm sneaking around." "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to," she said, turning away. "It's written all over your face." That was when I realized something had changed, not just in her behavior, but in the way she looked at me. It wasn't love anymore. It was tolerance, like she was enduring me. And the more I tried to keep things steady, the more distant she became. By the time the third year rolled around, I'd stopped bringing it up. I just watched the patterns, the half-truths, the evasive answers, the way her phone never left her hand. There's a specific kind of silence you start living in when you know something's wrong, but you can't prove it yet. That's where I was, calm on the outside, waiting for the inevitable. A few weeks later, she mentioned a friend's birthday dinner. Just a small group thing. she said while scrolling through her phone. I'll probably be home late. I nodded. Cool. Where's it at? She hesitated just slightly. Downtown. That new bar by the river. I knew the one. Trendy place, open seating, lots of dim corners. The kind of spot that made it easy to get lost in the noise. She left dressed up, more than usual. Tight black dress, red lipstick, heels she hadn't worn in months. She caught me looking and smiled, almost teasing. Don't look at me like that. It's just dinner. I didn't say anything. Yeah, she said, adjusting her earring, but you were thinking it. I didn't reply. I just kissed her on the cheek and said, have fun. She was gone before I could even finish the sentence. Hours passed. I watched a movie, cleaned up, tried to sleep. Midnight came and went. 1 a.m. 2. Her location on my phone, the one she'd shared months ago without a second thought, had been turned off. At 2:37, she finally texted, don't wait up. Crashing at Melissa's. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just done. The next morning, she came home like nothing happened. Sunglasses, coffee, messy hair. Morning, she said casually, heading straight for the fridge. Morning, I replied, watching her from the couch. She turned, eyebrow raised. What? Did you have fun last night? Yeah. What? You said you were going out with friends, I said slowly. But Mark was there. He told me later it was just you and Evan. That froze her. Only for a heartbeat. But I saw it. The flicker of panic before the mask slid back on. Oh my God, she said, rolling her eyes. You're unbelievable. I'm just asking why you lied. I didn't lie, she snapped. I said I was going out. You just assumed it was a group. I don't have to report every detail of my night like I'm clocking in at work. Rachel, you said. She cut me off, her voice rising. You're being paranoid. You think I'm cheating just because I had dinner with someone I used to date? Grow up. I don't owe you constant updates just because I'm out with my ex. For a moment, the room went completely silent. I looked at her, really looked, the defensiveness, the smirk, the disbelief that she could be questioned. And something in me just stopped. I stood up calm. No, I said. You don't owe me anything anymore. Her expression flickered, confusion first, then realization. What are you talking about? I'm talking about being done with this. Wait, seriously? You're ending things over dinner. She laughed, this sharp, mocking laugh that used to sting but now just sounded empty. You're being ridiculous. Maybe, I said. But I'd rather be ridiculous alone than disrespected together. I took my jacket, my wallet, and my phone. She stood frozen in the kitchen as I opened the door. Alex, don't walk out. We're just talking. I looked back once. No, you're talking. I'm finally listening. Then I left. I didn't go far that night, just to my brother's place. Slept on the couch, phone face down. I woke up to a dozen messages. None of them apologies, just demands. We need to talk. You're being dramatic. If you think I did something wrong, that's your insecurity, not mine. By the time I drove back the next morning, I'd already made my decision. I changed the locks, took her things that weren't personal, clothes, makeup, a few books, and left them neatly in a box by the door. Then I turned my phone off. When she got home that evening, I was gone. Later, I'd find out from a friend that she stood outside for nearly an hour, trying her key over and over before realizing it wasn't going to work. He said she looked more confused than angry. Like she couldn't process that someone she'd underestimated might actually walk away first. That was the last time I saw her face, at least for a while. The first night after I changed the locks was the quietest I'd had in months. No buzzing phone. No tension in my chest waiting for her to come home. No half-sincere apologies or tired arguments. Just quiet. I thought it would feel lonely. It didn't. It felt like oxygen. For the first few days, she must have thought it was temporary. I didn't block her number. I just didn't answer. The text started soft. Can we please talk about this? You really overreacted, Alex. I didn't do anything wrong. Then, when I didn't reply, are you seriously ghosting me? After everything we've been through? You can't just lock someone out and disappear. But I could. And I did. It wasn't about punishing her, not really. It was about ending the conversation she'd been controlling for too long. Every argument, every deflection, every time she made me doubt what I saw. The silence wasn't revenge. It was peace. By day 4, she showed up at my work. She must have waited outside because I saw her through the glass door, Messy bun, dark circles under her eyes, holding her phone like a lifeline. When she spotted me, she gave a small wave, half smile, like we'd just bumped into each other. "Alex," she said as I stepped outside, "can we please talk?" "There's nothing to talk about." She frowned. "You're not even going to hear me out." "I already did. You made it clear I was paranoid, controlling, insecure, all because I asked for honesty." Her face hardened. "You're twisting everything. You're acting like I cheated." "I don't care what label you use," I said quietly. "Disrespect is enough." She crossed her arms, defensive. "You're being dramatic." "Then stop performing," I said, and went back inside. She called after me, but I didn't turn around. That was the first time she saw I wasn't bluffing. After that, the messages shifted tone, desperation creeping in. "I miss you. Please, Alex, can we talk? I can't sleep. I just want to explain." Then, when I didn't respond, "You're really heartless, you know that? You think ignoring me makes you better? It just proves I was right about you." Every few hours, my phone would light up with another attempt. Different numbers, even her friends' phones. One of them, Lena, who'd always defended her, sent me a long message. "She's a mess, Alex. Just talk to her once. She's been crying nonstop." I read it, then deleted it. If she was crying now, it wasn't because she lost me. It was because she lost control. A week later, I moved the rest of my things into a small apartment across town. No shared photos, no reminders. I started going to the gym after work, picking up old hobbies, sleeping better. The tension I used to live with, the constant second-guessing, was gone. And somewhere in that silence, I realized how much noise she'd brought into my life. How much of myself I'd spent trying to earn basic respect. Every time she reached out, and she did, over and over, it only made it clearer that leaving was the right decision. The final text she sent that month said, "I can't believe you'd throw everything away over one mistake." I stared at it for a while, then typed back one line before deleting it. "So can I." I didn't send it. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in 3 years, I didn't want her to understand. A month later, she finally stopped texting. Not because she'd moved on, but because I think she realized I had. I didn't check her socials, but people talk. We had mutual friends. Word got around. Apparently, her ex, the one she'd sworn was just a friend, hadn't exactly been waiting for her. They went out once or twice, then he ghosted her. One of her coworkers mentioned she'd been crying in the break room. Another said she'd moved back in with her mom for a bit to reset. I didn't take any joy in hearing it. It just confirmed what I already knew. She'd built her life on pretending she was always one step ahead, and now she was standing alone. Sometimes I catch myself remembering little things. The way she used to mock me for being predictable, for coming home at the same time every night, for not knowing how to live. She'd roll her eyes when I made coffee early on weekends, or when I wanted to stay in instead of going out with her loud, flirtatious circle of friends. "God, Alex," she once said, "you act like you're 40. We're supposed to be having fun." At the time, I thought she just meant I was too reserved. Now I realize she meant I wasn't reckless enough for her, not chaotic enough to keep her entertained. Meanwhile, my life started to look normal again, peaceful, predictable in the best way. I'd wake up, make coffee, and feel good about the quiet. I'd go to work, come home to a place that was mine alone, and not worry about who she was texting when she needed space. But the universe has a way of circling things back. It was late on a Thursday when she finally tried again, not through text, but in person. I came home to find her sitting on the steps outside my new building, wrapped in a jacket that looked too thin for the cold. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged, hair pulled into a messy ponytail. "Alex," she said softly when I got close. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her, really looked, and realized I didn't recognize the person sitting there. "I just wanted to talk," she said, voice trembling. "Please. I told you before, there's nothing left to say." She bit her lip. "You can't still be mad. I didn't cheat, okay? I swear I didn't." I sighed. "You keep saying that like it's the only line that matters." Her eyes flicked up. "Then what do you want from me?" "Nothing," I said. "That's the point." For a second, she looked like she was going to yell, to argue like before. But instead, she just broke, her voice cracking as she whispered, "You can't just stop loving someone." I didn't answer that either. I just unlocked the door and walked inside. Through the glass, I could see her still sitting there for a long while, shivering, staring at the ground, like she was waiting for something that wasn't coming. And maybe that's what she finally understood, that I wasn't punishing her. I wasn't ignoring her to win. I was just done. Because when someone makes you feel crazy for asking for respect, there's nothing left to salvage. Not love, not trust, not even closure. About 6 months passed before I heard her name again. It came from Ryan, a mutual friend who'd always tried to stay neutral. We ran into each other at a small get-together. I hadn't planned to go, but it was close by, and I figured enough time had passed that I didn't need to avoid people anymore. We talked for a while, catching up, until he said, almost cautiously, "You heard about Jenna, right?" I shrugged. No. He hesitated. She quit her job. Apparently, that guy she was seeing, her ex, he got her into some kind of mess. Money, apartment drama, the whole thing. He was living with her for free, then ran off with someone else. I just nodded, taking a sip of my drink. I'm not surprised. Ryan glanced at me. You really don't care anymore, huh? Not really, I said. It's been quiet. I like it that way. He smiled a little. She asked about you once, you know. Wanted to know if you were seeing anyone. What did you tell her? The truth, he said. That you seemed fine. That was the end of it. I didn't go looking for her page or message her, even out of curiosity. The old me would have wanted to know every detail. Who she was with, what she was doing, if she ever regretted it. The new me didn't need any of that. But life has a strange sense of timing. 3 months later, I saw her again. Not planned, just coincidence. I was at a coffee shop near the office, waiting for a client, when I heard someone say my name. I turned, and there she was, standing in line, holding a worn purse, eyes wide like she'd seen a ghost. Alex. Her voice was shaky. She forced a smile, trying to look casual, but there was this flicker of panic behind her eyes. Hey, I said simply. Wow, you look different, she said. Good different. I nodded. Thanks. How've you been? She hesitated. Up and down, I guess. Things haven't really worked out lately. I've been meaning to reach out, but… She trailed off, looking at the floor. I didn't know if you'd even respond. I probably wouldn't have, I said. That made her laugh awkwardly. Yeah, I figured. She looked around, then back at me. Do you have a few minutes? I was actually going to ask if maybe we could talk sometime. You know, just clear the air. I checked my watch. I don't think that's necessary. Her smile faltered. I wasn't trying to. I know, I interrupted gently. But whatever you're looking for, it's not with me anymore. She blinked, like she wasn't sure what to say. Then she whispered, You really mean that, don't you? I do. Something broke in her posture. That old, confident air was gone. She just stood there, nodding slowly, trying to keep her composure. Okay, she said quietly. I get it. I gave her a small, polite nod and turned to leave. Before I walked out, she said softly, almost to herself, You really moved on. I didn't turn around. Yeah, I said. You taught me how to. And that was it. No grand speech, no dramatic goodbye. Just a quiet end to a story that had already finished a long time ago. I walked out into the afternoon sun feeling light. Not vindicated, not triumphant, just free. The kind of peace that doesn't come from payback. It comes from finally knowing you don't owe someone your pain anymore. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.